Hi, Mark.
Hi, Muffin.
We had a question about conversations and communication. A lot of times, two people have such different communication style, and then they have different subjects that they're interested in. And sometimes it's two ships passing and not any connection. Is there a way, especially when somebody wants to share something important and another person's not all that interested in, is there a way that's best to communicate?
Yeah, in a marriage counseling situation. And he had things he cared about deeply, ideas. He lives in a world of ideas, as many people do. And he wanted to communicate things that he really cared about. But the problem was, as far as she was concerned, it was coming across more like a lecture or a teaching session. And she was finding it difficult to sit through that. So we were talking about it, and I suggested that very few people want a lecture. And I don't mean lecture like correction, but very few people want to sign up for a long lecture. They would rather be in a discussion. And what we want is for people to be invested in the subject that we're passionate about. We want them to buy in. And rather than making it a lecture, we need to make it a discussion. And the hallmark of a discussion is that it's a two-way street. Both parties are going back and forth.
Yeah.
So I suggested that when we start with the subject we really care about, we set the stage, but we set the stage with a question. Wherever possible, we want to ask people questions. Questioning engages the brain
Yeah.
to a degree that simply passively listening doesn't. We should present an idea, the beginning of the idea, set the stage with, I want to talk to you about such and such. Here's what I care about. It matters to me. I hope you can care about it too. And you start with an idea. And after you've expressed the idea, which usually maybe takes 2 or 3 minutes, why not pause and ask them, how does that make you feel? What do you think about when I present that idea? What comes to mind? How do you react to what I've said so far? And then you engage in that answer. You host that answer. And then when they've said that, two things happen. One, you get to carry on further explaining, but two, and maybe more importantly, you are finding out what's important to that
Yeah.
person in the material that you are presenting. So you can begin to hone in on the parts that they care about. So you explain a little bit more and then pause again and say, how do you react to that? What's that make you think? And if the presenter has a real love for his or her subject, then the question, how does that make you feel? Because for many of us, life is as important in its emotional aspect as it is in its intellectual aspect. The more of the person we can engage in the discussion, feelings as well as thoughts and reactions, then the more of them we have invested in the subject and the further they're going to take it. So the discussion unfolds as short bits of teaching with connecting questions that connect with the person and draw them into the engaging process.
I appreciate how you got me interested in football. You knew that it would be learning about the lives of the players that would capture me as a relational person, which a lot of women are. Relationships are very important. And you got me interested in football. So thank you.
Yeah, it was really fun. You would say, "Hey, is that the guy you told me about who had cancer and he just got over it?" Yes. Is that the guy that whose mother was the only encouragement he had to play? And
Right.
yes. And so the human interest side of the game
Yeah.
kept you watching the game, which was my goal anyway, to get you to
Yeah.
watch the game because I like to watch football with you.
Yeah.
So this is indicative of that first question
Yeah.
is how do you get people interested in something? Know what their passion is and their world is about, and then ask questions that draw them into the subject from the perspective of their own world, of their own desires, of the things that make them excited, make them happy, make them fulfilled.
Thanks, Mark. More to come.